Executive editor for economics, Stephanie Flanders, has an all-star panel a little bit later.
Back to our to the old life that I used to lead of researching, writing, teaching, reflecting above all. Of course, I was blown away and profoundly grateful for the extraordinary generous words of Minister Arun Jaitley. Of course, the feeling is entirely reciprocated. You know, I had a dream boss, as you all know, and it's been the best job I've ever had, and I'm pretty sure this will be the best job I will ever have. It's been a kind of 24/7 high, rewarding, fulfilling, enriching, exciting. You know, not without controversy once in a while, but then these are such kind of jobs. And in the statement, I've tried to put together some concluding thoughts. I think my team and I, in the Ministry of Finance, in the Economic Division, in the Indian Economic Service, in the closer team CEA, it's been a fabulous 3.5, 4 years, almost 4 years by the time I leave, I think. So I only go back with the, I will go back with the happiest, best of memories of this tenure. In terms of all that we were able to do, there's been a lot of gratification. You all know it's all spelt out here. I just hope, whether you think of me as a good CEA or a lousy CEA, I hope you won't say that he was a lazy or an inactive CEA. That much you cannot say against me. So thank you all for coming. I, of course, as I said, I have a certain vision of what this job is. The government, the Prime Minister, the government, all the senior ministers shared broadly this conception of the role, which is why we were able to try and do as much as we tried to do. And as I said, I will always be committed to serving the country in at all times in the future. And I guess it's also a very emotional time. So thank you all for being here.
One. Let us start from this side. Okay. Yeah, let us start from. Everybody will get a chance. Okay.
Give you 2-3 questions.
One question, yeah, at a time.
But when will you be quitting? Because you didn't say that. And the second thing is, of course, you've had really a roller coaster ride here in the finance ministry. You've been very forthright in your things, as Arun Jaitley has pointed out, in GST, etc. But you also came under political attack from people like Mr. Subramanian and others. Looking back at it, isn't it something that you've been able to negate completely? Do you feel in retrospect that all this kind of targeting that you had, you stand vindicated after this entire all these episodes?
One complete coincidence is that this the announcement of the departure coincided with the piece I had in the GST today, which was a piece I'd like you all to read. It's very encouraging what's happening on GST revenues, not just for the centre but also the states, especially the net consuming states. It's a very heartening development, and given that GST was one of the things I had the privilege of being closely associated with, it's really wonderful to see this this major policy reform hopefully turning out to be very positive, as it's seeming to be going forward. In terms of the date, I told you that the hard deadline is early September, when the baby is going to arrive. Until we haven't exactly finalized. It'll be over the next month or two. No firm date has yet been fixed, so that's what. Now, in terms of I think that if you're in public office, you have to be both prepared to be forthright and be willing to, take, whatever the fallout or the consequences from that. And whether I've been validated or whether I've been able to successfully navigate this, it's for all of you to judge. I cannot say how well I've done it or not. That's for all of you to judge.
Sir, when you talk of your tenure here in last 4 years, what would be the 5 areas that you think people should remember you for? 5 key maybe issues or suggestions, or as you said, GST is one. What would be other 4?
Again, don't pin me down to anything. I have a list here which I'd like you to see. There have been so many things, exciting things. Being associated with the GST, especially the run-up to the Constitution Amendment Bill. The economic surveys have, have been so gratifying in terms of, just trying to elevate the quality of analysis that we do. I would also say that, mentoring, building capacity in the Indian Economic Service has been very, very, especially all these youngsters who hang around me, who I hope won't desert me the day I leave. It's been very thing. No, and of course, diagnosing early the twin balance sheet challenge, the public investment strategy, and also, JAM, universal basic income, bad banks, stigmatized capitalism, carbon imperialism. I hope, I have to stop because otherwise it starts sounding like, I did much more than I actually did. So I don't want to sound too immodest. So I leave that to all of you to judge.
So just a small point of clarification.
Yeah.
Had you not put in, had you not decided to leave now, would your term would have gone on till September, or co-terminus with the government next year, October?
See, I know my official contract was till May 2019. Yeah.
May 2019.
Yeah.
Have you met the PN after this?
Nothing. The first person I mentioned this to was the Honorable PM. After consulting with Mr. Arvind Subramanian. You can't. Yeah. Please.
इंडिया विद इन इंडिया कोई ऐसे शख्स जिनको लाना चाहिए फिर बाहर से लाकर
see, I am not. I have a very simple answer. बहुत ही सरल जवाब है इसका जवाब. I told you पहली दिन मैंने बताया था मैं मद्रासी हूँ. सवाल बहुत आसान है. I think that for every job you should get the best person possible. That should be the criterion. Who's the best person for the job? I'm not saying I was. Maybe you should learn from the mistakes that maybe they made in choosing me. But I think it should be just competence. I think that's what the government believes in. That's what it should follow. Provenance, origin should be completely, what loyalty, whatever should all be second order. It's about merit and competence above all, I think. Should be.
Sir, you have listed so many satisfactions. One thing which you think you wanted to do and you couldn't do?
Yeah, see, I think there are, there are certainly when I reflect back on this, absolutely there are many areas where I think that, you wish more could have happened, and that's part of, economic policy as a political process. You see, in all these things that I may feel maybe didn't happen or couldn't happen, one has to be careful because one shouldn't second guess the constraints that policymakers are under. It's easy for an advisor to say do this, but what the political consequences are one doesn't know, and one should leave this to the judgment of the people who have to face the heat finally. But one thing I think that I wish I could have done, my team and I could have done, is for whatever reason, I think hopefully a good reason, there was a lot of demand for, creating something like the office of the CEA in a number of states. A number of chief ministers, I think, were keen to have something like this. And I wish I'd had more bandwidth and time and energy and effort to kind of do this in the States as well. I think it's something that I hope will happen going forward. That's something certainly that I wish could have done more. We couldn't. Yes.
Since the first question, would you clarify what your last date in office?
No. As I said, we haven't fixed the last date yet.
And my second question is, what you came up with some of
the out-of-the-box ideas in the economic survey. So which would be the two ideas that you wanted the government to implement and you regret the government not implementing those ideas?
See, I think that there's no such thing as, life and the country will go on for many, many years. And I very strongly believe that, the job of economic technocrats is to advise, analyze, so on. And I think, one should not have too much vanity about, what's getting implemented or not. But I certainly think that there's also a kind of a time frame question, right? Take something like universal basic income, for example, right? I mean, the fact that it didn't happen in the last 1 year is not by any means, I'm not given up on the idea, for example. And if I would go further and say that, in fact, something like what Telangana is doing is kind of like a universal basic income. So the more important thing is that it's become part of the policy debate, policy discussion. There's many other ideas, bad bank, whatever, all these ideas, carbon imperialism, whatever. And as long as they remain part of the policy discussion over the next few years, some of them will be implemented, some of them may never, some of them may be implemented with some delay. But that's something that one should, so as long as, I feel I've done my bit in, with my team to do all the underlying work, the analytical work, provide the advice, provide the new ideas, provide presentation, articulation, then it's up to all of you and the politicians to run with it. So I'm just I mean, this is very much the Bhagavad Gita thing, right? You do your bit and see what happens. Don't be too obsessed with the outcome.
So through your economic surveys, of course, we want to know the kind of ideas you would give to the government, and one of them, as you just mentioned, was the universal basic income. But apart from the debates during that time when it was presented in the eco survey, we did not really see government working on it. Do you believe that a lot of work needs to be done? It can be a game changer for the country. And second, what would you say to those politicians, especially the opposition, who today say there are no jobs, farmers are in a state of distress, the economy is in shambles?
So on the universal basic income, I think firstly, please, don't give me or my team credit for this idea. The idea has been around for a long time. I think we just, brought it into more prominence because we had the good fortune of having the economic survey as a vehicle, and I had this position within government, the privilege of having to, promote these ideas closer to policymakers. Now, I think this is not the time to get into, great shambles. These are all questions that, the last analysis of the economic survey of the economy was in the economic survey. I broadly stand by what we said there. I think that, of course, the world is changing. These are kind of more uncertain times, and all policies will have to navigate through, good times and challenging times.
Ashu. Sir, what will be your parting idea or suggestion to the government as far as oil prices are concerned?
I actually, you haven't seen the end of me, my friends. We have, my team and I have been working on, several things already. So, I mean, in the next month or two, I don't, I'm incapable of saying, putting up my feet and saying, I have nothing to do. I'm incapable of doing that. But in fact, there are things that we are working on, which, what needs to be done to address some of the pressing challenges. We also have some ideas on fiscal federalism, which we're working on. On the oil price thing in particular, I think Minister Jaitley had a terrific blog post the other day, and kind of I think how can we disagree with that? Very thoughtful, sensible view on macroeconomic stability, fiscal prudence, and all of that. I think it's no one can express it as eloquently as he did in the book.
Do we see? Does this mean that we'll see another mid-year economic survey before you leave?
No, that you won't. That I can say that we're not going to have another. I don't want to inflict yet another survey on the country.
Sir, now that post-September will leave the office, do you think that will give you the freedom to be more open and frank about some of the
I mean, I think that I've had a fair amount of freedom, even to speak my mind within government. I think that going, the next step, I haven't thought about what I want to work on, what I want to write on, but certainly I think that reflecting upon my experience here, reflecting upon India, the challenges. I've also had in my mind, for many years, wanting to write a book on economic development around the world. So all these are things that will be the focus of my research in the future.
You are open to come back if the government wants to have a policy or advisory rules?
I'm always, as I said at the end, I'm always committed to serving the country anytime. Yeah.
Sir, no, but on demonetization, you didn't specify some because you want to keep that for the books.
No, that I mean, I've said enough on demonetization actually. Yeah.
फैमिली रीजन्स अभी के सबसे करंट रीजन जिसकी वजह से जा रहे हैं सर, इसके बाद वहाँ पर क्या परस्यू करेंगे सर? आपने कुछ दिखाया एकेडमिक्स और क्या?
Yeah, so see, in the next few days you will all get to know what exactly I'll be going to. I mean, I can't reveal that right now for obvious reasons of it has to be done. Whatever's happening has to be done through formal channels. But in a few days you'll get to know what I will be doing specifically in the next year at least.
Yeah. Sir, do you think you ever had a chance to become the IBI governor?
I think there's one rule in life is that you don't indulge in counterfactuals while you're in office, and you certainly don't indulge in counterfactuals about the past. So I think that let me leave it at that. Yeah.
Please.
Sir, one more thing. I just wanted to know from you about demonetization. We got to know from somewhere that you were not even present in Delhi on the day of demonetization. Is this true? And
I mean, that's just a fact.
You did not know about it.
No, it's easier to answer the first question. I think I was very much in Delhi on the day of demonetization.
Sir, I had a question, sir. Will the new eco-survey 2019 be prepared by a new economic advisor, or will the existing team led by the principal economic advisor do their...
No, I think, I think soon the process will start to find my successor, and I think that let's wait how it turns out. Yeah?
Sir, so now that you are leaving, I want to know one popular perception which could be wrong that you might like to dispel today.
Yeah.
It could be about Prime Minister, it could be about Finance Minister, it could be about Indian economy, Finance Ministry. One popular perception that you might like to dispel.
That's a great question. I haven't thought about that. No, these are all. I don't think these are worth speculating about. I think this. Ask me questions on substance and on GST, on VAT Bank, on whatever. I'm happy to answer. But this is all kind of speculation.
Because strongly believe that the oil prices should come under GST. And how can it be done?
See, I think those are decisions that the GST Council will have to take. I think that.
But you give your views.
Yeah,
for sugarcane and other things, your revenue. On this, what is your view?
No, my views is very clear. Many of the exempted sectors, even in today's piece, I've said, at some stage should come into the GST as well. I would like alcohol to come into the GST, for example, right? I mean, for cleaning up the system and for transparency reasons. I think the point is the broader the base of the GST, the more effective it is. But I think that we should also be mindful of the efficiency means all the base, but I think we should always keep the balance between efficiency and autonomy, fiscal autonomy of the centre and states also in mind. So I think it's a balancing act. So far, the GST Council has done a phenomenal job of that. So I think I'm very confident that will happen going forward as well.
So you took over in 2014 and the way you said India was in a sweet spot. How did you see the economic situation today vis-a-vis, when you took over? What kind of difference, what kind of changes do you
see? I think remember that we always, all the analysis is kind of based on your, outlook about what's going to happen. Remember that sweet spot that I spoke about was a combination of the political mandate and and oil prices and so on. And I think that today the international environment is very different. I think a lot has happened. Always policy reforms means that a lot remains on the reform agenda going forward, and policy is about doing it is a ongoing hard process. That's what policy reform is all about, and I think as long as that policy reform continues, I think that the economy should be in good shape.
Sir, I have a question. Yeah. You had mentioned the concept of bad bank in a number of your writings. Initially, the government did not take up that recommendation. They went instead with the whole NCLT IBC. So, do you think that that wasn't enough because now the government is finally recommending?
See, I think that it's incumbent on all of us, especially people like me, to acknowledge maybe things that we didn't quite get right. See, I think on the bad bank, when we first proposed it, I think this was almost 2.5, 3 years ago we proposed it. I was very passionate about that. But then I think I did recognize that the NCLT process offers a legal framework for resolving this in a way perhaps that at that stage the bad bank might not have been able to. So I'm actually very happy in this instance that perhaps an alternative idea gained traction, which is and the resolution process is moving well. Now, one of the things I'm going to be writing on as well is how we should maybe think of ways to further supplement and accelerate the process, and in that context we could be thinking of other measures as well, and I'll be writing about that, advising government as well on that. The people who haven't asked before,
आपका पर्सनल ओपिनियन क्या है कि क्या आरबीआई को और ज्यादा अधिकार की जरूरत है सरकारी बैंकों के रेगुलेशन?
This is I think as part of this work that I'm planning to do on what further steps need to be taken to address the twin balance sheet challenge. These are things that I think we are worth thinking about. But I don't want to express any views on that in particular today.
So recently, Finance Minister Piyush Goyal ji ने कहा था कि double-digit growth देश में हो सकता है. आपको क्या लगता है कि fourth quarter तक? तो आपको क्या लगता है कि down the line कब तक ये वो possible है और क्या double-digit growth कभी इंडिया देख पाएगा?
Near future में.
Yeah, I think that we should certainly aspire to double-digit growth. I mean, there's no question about that. It helps on so many fronts. But I think to achieve double-digit growth, I think you need two things. You need a favorable external environment, which is not the case, and you need to do a lot of domestic policy hard work at home. I think the government has begun to do the latter, but I think the economic environment has deteriorated. So I think maybe the task becomes that much more challenging. But I would never say that double-digit growth is beyond reach of India. I think we can, but I think you will need. It doesn't just happen like that. You need both the external environment and ongoing sustained policy reforms at home.
What steps should India take to ring-fence it against the ongoing trade war, and should India retaliate?
I think that retaliation questions are highly political questions, I think, because it's not just about economic policy, but also about foreign policy and security policy. So I think those are very tough decisions that have to be made at much higher levels than mine. I do think that we have to, I don't know whether ring fence is the right word, but I do think we need to think about what are the measures we need to take to kind of cushion any adverse fallout from all that's going on. I mean, I think that a trade war, I still hope it won't happen internationally. But if it does, I think we'll have to find the appropriate responses in terms of domestic policies as well.
So one more question. We know that you shared a special bond with Mr. JP, but could you tell us an anecdote where you did not agree with each other and did not agree? Could you share a small anecdote about that?
Why do you want to spoil the love fest today?
Okay, sir. I think.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I enjoyed working with all of you very much. Thank you.
Same here, sir.
Sorry, I'm late. क्या हुआ?
कुछ नहीं यार,